The late afternoon sun cast a golden hue over the quiet suburban street, painting everything in warm, amber tones. The neighborhood, usually bustling with the sound of children playing and dogs barking, seemed unusually serene. Trees swayed gently in the breeze, their shadows stretching long across the pavement. It was the kind of peaceful setting where time seemed to slow down, inviting reflection and calm. But for one woman, standing helplessly by the side of the road, this calm was overshadowed by a growing sense of frustration. She was elegantly dressed in a light grey suit, her silver hair neatly pinned back. Her face, though composed, betrayed a trace of unease. Beside her stood her vehicle, a sleek Tesla Cybertruck, its metallic body glinting in the sunlight. It was a marvel of technology, a symbol of modern innovation. Yet at this moment it was nothing more than a stranded piece of machinery, its flat tire rendering it immobile. The woman sighed, pulling out her phone. She debated calling for assistance but hesitated. She was aware that her son had provided her with every resource she could need, yet something inside her resisted relying on others for every inconvenience. She prided herself on her independence, but as car after car zipped by without so much as slowing down, a pang of helplessness set in. Would no one stop to help? At that moment, a distant sound of rubber against asphalt caught her attention. A young man, around 20, was pedaling his bicycle up the street. His black t-shirt clung to his frame, damp with sweat from a long day of work. His sneakers were scuffed, and his jeans were faded, but his posture was confident, his movements purposeful. This was someone accustomed to hard work, someone who moved through life with determination. Robert, as he was called, had just finished a grueling shift at a local warehouse. His hands were calloused, his legs tired from standing all day, but his spirit remained undimmed. His life was far from easy, working multiple jobs to help his family make ends meet while saving for college, but he carried himself with quiet pride. As he rode past the Cybertruck, the scene caught his eye, an older woman standing alone by her car, looking out of place amidst the otherwise peaceful surroundings. Robert slowed his bike, his sharp eyes quickly assessing the situation. It would have been easy to keep going. He was tired, hungry, and eager to get home. But something inside him wouldn't let him. He remembered his mother's words, spoken often during his childhood: if you see someone in need, help them. Even the smallest gesture can make a difference. Those words had stuck with him, guiding him like a moral compass. He pulled his bike to the curb, letting it rest against a lamppost. Straightening his t-shirt, he approached the woman with a friendly smile. "Excuse me, ma'am," he said, his voice steady and kind. "Do you need any help?" The woman looked up, startled at first. She hadn't expected anyone to stop, much less a young man who looked as though he had his own challenges to deal with. For a moment she hesitated. Was it safe to trust a stranger? But there was something about Robert's demeanor, his open, earnest expression, the unguarded sincerity in his eyes that put her at ease. "Oh, thank goodness," she said, relief washing over her. "I think I have a flat tire, but I have no idea how to fix it." Robert nodded, glancing at the tire. "No problem. I can take a look," he said, crouching down to inspect the damage. His movements were quick and assured, the practiced efficiency of someone who had solved more than a few mechanical issues in his time. The woman watched him closely, noting the care he took, the focus in his expression. He didn't ask any questions or make any demands, he simply set to work. As Robert worked, he began to chat. He told her about his day, about how he balanced multiple jobs to support his family. He shared snippets of his life, speaking with a mix of humility and pride. He didn't complain or seek pity. He spoke as though these struggles were just facts of life, challenges to be faced head-on. The woman listened intently, moved by his honesty. She learned that Robert had dreams of studying engineering, of one day building machines that could improve people's lives. But college was expensive, and scholarships felt out of reach. "I'm taking things one day at a time," he said with a shrug, his tone matter of fact. For her part, the woman shared little about herself. She was more interested in listening, in understanding this young man who had so selflessly stopped to help her. As they talked, she noticed how he occasionally glanced at his bike, as if reminding himself not to linger too long. She realized he was likely sacrificing valuable time, time he could have used to rest or tend to his own responsibilities. In about 20 minutes, Robert stood up, wiping his hands on his jeans. "There you go," he said, gesturing toward the now repaired tire. "It's patched up, but you'll want to have it checked properly later." The woman smiled, genuinely grateful. "Thank you so much," she said, reaching into her purse to offer him some cash. But Robert shook his head, stepping back. "No need," he said simply. "I didn't do it for money. I just wanted to help." His words left her momentarily speechless. In a world that often seemed driven by self-interest, here was someone who gave freely, expecting nothing in return. She tucked the money back into her purse, instead offering him a warm smile. "You've got a good heart, Robert," she said. "The world needs more people like you." Robert shrugged, his modesty shining through. "Just doing what I can," he said. With that, he picked up his bike and prepared to leave. As he rode off, his silhouette fading into the distance, the woman stood by her car, reflecting on the encounter. She felt a deep sense of admiration for this young man who had stopped to help a stranger without hesitation, who had shared his story with such openness and grace. Little did Robert know, as he pedaled away, that his simple act of kindness had planted a seed in her mind, one that would soon grow into something extraordinary. Robert's life was a delicate balance of dreams and daily struggles, a tightrope he walked with unyielding determination. Born and raised in a modest neighborhood on the outskirts of the city, he grew up in a small, weathered house that hummed with the resilience of a family determined to stay afloat. The peeling paint on the walls and the creak of the floorboards told stories of years of wear, yet inside, the warmth of familial bonds provided a stark contrast to the world outside. His mother, Maria, worked tirelessly as a nurse, often taking double shifts to keep food on the table and the lights on. She had a gentle strength about her, her face lined with the sacrifices she made daily for her children. Robert's father, once a skilled mechanic, had been sidelined by a work injury years ago. Though he still tinkered in the garage when his body allowed, he could no longer work full-time, a fact that weighed heavily on him. Despite this, he remained a source of inspiration for Robert, always reminding him that challenges were simply opportunities in disguise. Robert's younger sister, Ellie, was the light of the household. At just 10 years old, her laughter filled the air like a balm for their weary spirits. Robert adored her, often spending his evenings helping her with homework or crafting stories to make her giggle before bed. In many ways, Ellie was his reason for pushing through the hardships, his motivation to keep dreaming despite the odds stacked against him. Robert's days were grueling. Mornings began before sunrise, often with a shift at the local grocery store, where he stocked shelves and helped customers with a quiet efficiency. By noon, he would hop on his worn-out bicycle to head to his next gig, sometimes washing dishes at a diner, other times fixing bikes or repairing household items for neighbors. His hands, calloused and stained from grease, bore the marks of his labor, yet they also revealed his skill and resourcefulness. Despite his packed schedule, Robert never lost sight of his dream to become an engineer. Since he was a child, he had been fascinated by machines, spending hours dismantling and reassembling broken appliances in his father's garage. He had a natural talent for understanding how things worked, a gift that grew sharper with every project he tackled. Engineering wasn't just a career aspiration for Robert, it was his passion, the thing that kept his spirit alive in the face of adversity. But dreams didn't come cheap. College tuition was a mountain he couldn't see himself climbing. He'd applied for scholarships but lacked the time to build the perfect academic resume that might catch a committee's eye. Still, he refused to give up. One day at a time, he often muttered to himself, a mantra he repeated whenever doubt began to creep in. Yet Robert's struggles weren't just financial. The weight of responsibility often left him feeling isolated. While his peers spent their weekends hanging out or pursuing hobbies, Robert was juggling jobs and worrying about bills. It wasn't resentment that he felt. He loved his family deeply, but there were moments when the enormity of his situation threatened to overwhelm him. On those days, he would retreat to the small corner of the garage he had claimed as his own, tinkering with old electronics to find solace in the hum of creation. What set Robert apart was his unshakable kindness. Even in the midst of his own struggles, he never hesitated to lend a hand to others. Whether it was helping a neighbor fix a broken gate or offering to babysit Ellie's friends when their parents were busy, Robert's generosity knew no bounds. His mother often said that his heart was his greatest strength, a quality that couldn't be taught but could change the world if nurtured. For Robert, the future felt like a distant dream, something he could see but couldn't quite reach. Yet, despite the uncertainty, he carried on, fueled by the hope that his hard work and kindness might one day open doors he couldn't yet imagine. Little did he know, the path he was carving, step by step, would soon lead to an extraordinary twist of fate. The phone call was brief, yet it carried a weight that Elon Musk couldn't ignore. His mother's voice, warm but tinged with excitement, told him about her unusual encounter with a young man who had helped her when no one else would. It wasn't just the act itself changing a flat tire on the side of the road, it was the way she described him. Kind, humble, and sharp, she had said. The kind of person who doesn't ask for anything in return, Elon. He reminded me of you when you were younger. Elon leaned back in his chair, the glow of his computer screens casting sharp angles on his face. For a man used to dealing with massive projects colonizing Mars, revolutionizing energy, reimagining transportation, a story like this might have seemed insignificant. But it wasn't. It struck a chord deep within him, a reminder of his own journey, of the risks and sacrifices that had paved his way. He found himself wanting to know more about this young man, this stranger who had left such an impression on his mother. "Do you know where he lives?" Elon asked. "I don't. But I remember the spot where he helped me," his mother replied. "He said his name was Robert." "Leave it to me," Elon said, already forming a plan. Within hours, his team was mobilized. They scoured traffic camera footage near the area his mother had mentioned, searching for any sign of Robert. It wasn't easy. Robert wasn't the type to leave a digital footprint. There were no viral videos or social media posts highlighting his good deed, just a quiet act of kindness, unnoticed by the world. But Elon's team was relentless, driven by their leader's unspoken urgency. After days of searching, they found him. A young man riding an old bicycle, his demeanor calm and focused, his movements purposeful. The grainy footage captured him pedaling away from the very spot Elon's mother had described. It was a small breakthrough, but it was enough. Further digging revealed his name, his address, and snippets of his story, working odd jobs, supporting his family, and dreaming of a future that seemed out of reach. Elon studied the file they compiled on Robert. The more he read, the more intrigued he became. This wasn't just about repaying a favor to his mother. It was about recognizing something rare, a person with the drive and character to achieve greatness, if only given the chance. The decision came naturally. Elon didn't hesitate. "We're going to meet him," he announced to his team, "and we're going to change his life." The visit was unannounced. Early one evening, as Robert was repairing an old toaster for a neighbor in his modest living room, a knock on the door disrupted his concentration. Wiping his hands on his jeans, he called out, "I'll get it," and walked to the door. What he saw when he opened it left him frozen in place. Standing there, with an unmistakable presence, was Elon Musk. Behind him stood a small team, their expressions a mix of professionalism and anticipation. For a moment, Robert thought it was some sort of elaborate prank. "Hi," he managed to say, his voice unsteady. "Robert," Elon asked, extending his hand with a warm smile. "I'm Elon Musk. I've heard a lot about you." Robert blinked, his mind racing. "You've heard about me?" he repeated, shaking Elon's hand tentatively. "Yes," Elon said, stepping inside when Robert invited him. "My mother told me what you did for her. I wanted to thank you personally and to learn more about you." As Robert's family gathered in the small living room, equally stunned, Elon sat down and began asking questions. He wanted to know everything about Robert's life, his dreams, and the challenges he faced. Robert, though nervous at first, soon found himself opening up. He spoke about his passion for engineering, his love for problem-solving, and his dream of building machines that could improve lives. He also spoke about the financial barriers that made college feel like a distant dream. Elon listened intently, nodding at intervals. When Robert finished, Elon leaned forward, his gaze intense but kind. "Robert," he said, "I see a lot of myself in you. Ambition, determination, and a desire to make the world better. I think someone like you deserves a chance to chase your dreams." Robert stared, not daring to hope. "What do you mean?" "I'm offering you a fully funded scholarship to any engineering program of your choice," Elon said. "Tuition, living expenses, everything covered. And once you graduate, if you're interested, I'd like you to come work with me." For a moment, the room was silent. Robert's mother wiped away tears, his younger sister beamed, and Robert himself struggled to find words. I don't know what to say," he whispered. "You don't have to say anything," Elon replied with a smile. Just promise me you'll use this opportunity to its fullest." As the reality of what had just happened began to sink in, Robert realized that his life was about to change in ways he could never have imagined. This wasn't just a moment of generosity, it was a turning point, a doorway to a future he had only dreamed of. And it had all begun with a simple act of kindness. The transition from a life of relentless struggle to one filled with opportunities was not immediate for Robert. It was a gradual process, each step forward marking a small victory in a journey that felt almost unreal. After Elon Musk's visit and the offer that had changed the course of his life, Robert found himself standing on the threshold of a world he had only dared to dream about. The first challenge was leaving his comfort zone. For years, Robert's life had revolved around his family, his jobs, and the small, tight-knit community that had shaped him. Now he was preparing to move to a prestigious university, a place filled with towering buildings, advanced labs, and some of the brightest minds in the world. Stanford University had welcomed him with open arms, and though the idea of attending such an institution thrilled him, it also filled him with doubt. Would he fit in? Could he keep up? The first few weeks were daunting. As he walked through the sprawling campus, Robert often felt like an outsider, a kid from a modest neighborhood surrounded by students whose lives seemed effortlessly perfect. But every time insecurity crept in, he reminded himself of why he was there. He wasn't just pursuing a degree, he was chasing a dream that could uplift not only himself but his family and community as well. Robert's work ethic quickly became his greatest asset. In his classes, he absorbed knowledge like a sponge, his curiosity driving him to dive deeper into concepts that had once seemed like distant mysteries. He spent late nights in the library, poring over engineering textbooks, sketching designs for machines that could solve real-world problems. His professors took notice, often commenting on his ability to approach problems with creativity and resilience. One even remarked, "Robert doesn't just solve problems, he reimagines them." Outside of academics, Robert began to find his footing socially. Though he was reserved, his authenticity drew people to him. He joined engineering clubs, collaborated on projects, and even found himself mentoring younger students who admired his journey. Slowly but surely, he built a network of friends and peers who shared his passion for innovation. During his first summer break, Elon Musk invited Robert to Tesla's headquarters. The visit was transformative. Stepping into Tesla's cutting-edge labs, surrounded by teams working on autonomous vehicles and renewable energy solutions, Robert felt a spark reignite within him. Here was a place where his ideas could become reality. Elon introduced him to engineers who had turned bold concepts into groundbreaking technologies, encouraging Robert to soak up as much knowledge as he could. "This could be your future," Elon told him, and Robert believed it. Back at Stanford, Robert began to apply what he had learned. In one of his classes, he led a team project to design a cost-effective energy storage system for rural communities. The project not only earned top marks but also gained attention from local organizations interested in implementing the design. It was the first time Robert saw his work have a tangible impact, and it fueled his drive to do more. Meanwhile, his family's life had also started to change. With the financial burden lifted, his mother was able to cut back on her grueling shifts at the hospital, spending more time with Ellie, who had blossomed into a confident, ambitious student. Robert stayed in close contact with them, often sharing stories of his progress and dreams for the future. Knowing that his success was lifting his family gave him an unshakable sense of purpose. By the time Robert approached his final year at Stanford, he was no longer the hesitant young man who had wondered if he belonged. He had grown into a confident, skilled engineer with a vision for the future. Senior thesis, a project on sustainable transportation solutions for underserved communities, earned him both accolades and offers from top companies. But Robert already knew where he wanted to go. Tesla had become more than just a company to him, it was a place where he could turn his dreams into reality. When Robert walked across the stage at graduation, his family cheering from the crowd, it wasn't just a personal victory. It was a testament to the power of hard work, resilience, and the belief that even the smallest acts of kindness can lead to extraordinary outcomes. As he stepped into his new role at Tesla, Robert carried with him not only the skills he had honed, but also the values that had shaped him: a commitment to helping others, a relentless drive to innovate, and a heart grounded in gratitude. This was just the beginning of Robert's story, a path to greatness paved not by privilege or luck, but by the strength of his character and the generosity of one life-changing opportunity. Robert's transformation didn't just change his life, it became a beacon of hope for his community. The story of the boy who had grown up fixing bikes and toasters, who had once doubted if college was even possible, now attending one of the most prestigious universities in the world and working alongside visionaries like Elon Musk, spread like wildfire. People who had known him since childhood, who had seen him pedaling his worn-out bike through the neighborhood, suddenly saw him in a new light, not just as a success story, but as proof that dreams were within reach, no matter how distant they seemed. His old neighborhood, once marked by quiet resilience, began to buzz with renewed energy. Inspired by Robert's journey, local youth started dreaming bigger. For years, many had believed that opportunities like his were reserved for people from wealthier backgrounds, far removed from their world of patched roofs and second-hand clothes. But Robert's story shattered that illusion. His rise wasn't fueled by privilege, but by relentless hard work, kindness, and the courage to seize opportunities when they came. Robert didn't forget his roots. On weekends, he returned to his old neighborhood, not as a figure above it, but as one of its own. He began mentoring kids at the local community center, sharing not just his technical knowledge, but also the lessons he had learned about perseverance and self-belief. He organized workshops on engineering basics, teaching kids to tinker with simple machines and inspiring them to see the potential in the tools around them. "You don't need a fancy lab to start dreaming," he often told them. "I started with my dad's old toolbox and a broken radio." His influence extended beyond the kids. Parents who had long been skeptical about investing in higher education began to see the value of nurturing their children's ambitions. Local businesses partnered with Robert to create internship programs, giving young people hands-on experience in fields they had never considered before. It was as if Robert's success had rippled outward, igniting a collective belief that their community could produce innovators, leaders, and changemakers. But it didn't stop there. News of Robert's mentorship and community work began to spread beyond the neighborhood. Organizations invited him to speak at events, where he shared his story with audiences eager to understand how to cultivate similar transformations in their own communities. Robert, ever humble, attributed his success to the support he had received from his family, his community, and Elon Musk's unexpected intervention. Yet it was clear to everyone listening that his story was also one of resilience, character, and the refusal to let circumstances define him. What Robert didn't realize at first was that his journey had become more than a personal narrative, it had become a movement. His story inspired countless others to believe in the power of kindness, hard work, and the transformative impact of offering opportunities to those who might otherwise go unnoticed. In a world often obsessed with immediate success and personal gain, Robert stood as a reminder that greatness is not just about what we achieve, but about the doors we open for others. Through his unwavering commitment to giving back, Robert showed that a single act of kindness, stopping to help a stranger on the side of the road, could ripple outwards, changing not just one life but many. His community, once struggling to find hope, now brimmed with it, proof that inspiration, when shared, can create a legacy far greater than any single accomplishment. The day Robert stopped to help a stranger fix a flat tire, he had no idea he was setting a series of extraordinary events into motion. For him, it was a small gesture, a moment of kindness he barely thought twice about. Yet, that single act had a ripple effect that transformed not just his life but the lives of countless others. It became a living testament to the power of kindness, a spark that ignited change far beyond what anyone could have imagined. In the months and years that followed, Robert's story spread, inspiring people in ways he never anticipated. It wasn't just about a young man receiving an incredible opportunity, it was about what that opportunity revealed about the world. Kindness, Robert learned, had the power to transcend barriers. It wasn't bound by class, circumstance, or expectation. It was a universal language, understood and felt by all who witnessed it. Robert's journey resonated because it was so ordinary and yet so extraordinary. It reminded people that greatness doesn't always start with grand gestures or monumental decisions. Sometimes it begins with a simple choice to care, to act, to help someone in need. In a world often driven by self-interest and ambition, Robert's story served as a call to action for others to embrace the transformative potential of selflessness. Elon Musk himself became an advocate for the message Robert's story conveyed. In interviews and speeches, he often cited Robert as a reminder that talent and character exist everywhere, often in the most unlikely places. It's not just about finding the best minds, Elon would say, it's about supporting the best hearts. For Robert, the lesson was equally profound. As he looked back on how far he had come, he realized that every opportunity he had received was built upon the foundation of a single moment of compassion. That knowledge shaped his actions moving forward. Whether mentoring young engineers, volunteering in his community, or simply holding the door open for a stranger, Robert carried with him the belief that small acts of kindness could lead to unimaginable outcomes. His story became more than a tale of personal success, it became a movement. Communities, inspired by his example, began creating networks of support, fostering a culture where kindness wasn't just appreciated, it was celebrated. Robert's story had proven that when kindness becomes a catalyst for change, the possibilities are limitless.